it's Friday, and we do thank God for an amazing week. Last week we actually did an interesting topic, and we talked about the blockchain ecosystem and stuff that is very much important we do discuss. And this week we announced that what we are going to have a look at consider some of the the related terms used in Bitcoin, and it is part of our day-to-day activities, so it is actually branded over it. And I'll be referring myself a lot to a book, Mastering Bitcoin and Blockchain by Andreas Antonopoulos, so that we professionally consider, learn, and go through everything together as one big family. Once again, I'm your host for today, and it is the Ebitcoinics Academy, and it's as usual every Fridays 4 o'clock p.m. Those of you that can watch online, you can always have access to this meeting online, and those of you that cannot do that, we constantly upload it to our channel, and you can share, watch, and just get to let everybody also have access to this unique information you do have. So quickly I will just open up a book by Andreas Antonopoulos, and then I share my screen. Those of you that are watching live, you can see my screen, so I wouldn't have to stretch. And these are very important things we need to discuss, so you have to pay attention to it, and it's just like some sort of a glossary that needs to be addressed. Every day you are involved with Bitcoin, and there are some funny terms or some funny word and you hear, and it kind of make no sense, but it is something that needs to be practically consumed by everybody that is involved with this brand new ecosystem. You understand? So if you are involved with the ecosystem, you should be actually welcoming any sort of terminologies or any sort of glossary that has to do with what you are doing. And Andreas just simplified it for everyone. And over here on my screen, you can see we have BIP, or we call it BIP or whatever, but this is actually a short acronym for Bitcoin Improvement Proposals, and that we call BIP. Now, what is BIP? If somebody asks you what is a BIP, it is actually a set of protocols or proposals that members of the Bitcoin community have submitted to improve Bitcoin. For example, we have something we call the BIP 0021, and that is actually a proposal to improve the Bitcoin URI scheme. So Bitcoin is actually an open source, and if you are a programmer or a developer, you can contribute to Bitcoin's protocol. Now, the BIP is anything that you can submit as a developer or as whatever, anything that you understand on top of the Bitcoin protocol, you submit, and it makes the Bitcoin network or protocol much better. That, in short, is actually known as BIP. And we also have address. Now, address is also known as your public key. Now, a public key is actually something you use in receiving Bitcoin. Now, previous weeks we talked about transaction hash and public keys and private key, and today we are finding this term here again. It means every day in our lives getting to do anything with cryptocurrencies or the blockchain technology. These are things that we need to constantly hear or know or get used to. So every day you see almost everything we are trying to talk about or discuss, you find terms getting married with each other repeatedly like that. Now, over here he is saying that a Bitcoin address looks like what you can see on my screen. That is 1D, whatever, a combination funny, and they consist of a string of letters and numbers starting with usually a number. It can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be anything. It usually starts with a number. Just like you ask others to send an email to your email address, you would ask others to send you Bitcoin to your Bitcoin address. And as I mentioned in the previous lesson, you cannot ask somebody to send you his Bitcoin address without the person actually having a Bitcoin wallet. It's just like trying to ask me to send you an email when you don't have an email account? How are you, or how on earth are you going to be able to have an email address? Basically, you must first have an account. You can refer yourself to one of our videos on that. And then the Bitcoin itself is actually the name of the currency unit, or the coin, the network, and the software itself. So Bitcoin is the currency unit, or the network, or the software we are using to transact, or reliably transform liquidity between individuals, whether it is peer-to-peer or not transactionally peer-to-peer. And we have something we call a block, or you can call it whatever you think. We have a block, and we also do have a blockchain. So we would have a look at that together. As you can see, it's part of what we are going to discuss. And we have a block defined as a grouping of transactions marked with a timestamp and a fingerprint of the previous block. The block header is actually hashed to find a proof of work, thereby validating the transactions. Valid blocks are added to the main blockchain by network consensus. So a block is actually transactions that has been happening concurrently, independently. All these grouping together, we call them a block. And then a blockchain is also a list of all these blocks that has been validated. So you see over here, he's saying a list of validated blocks is linking to its predecessor all the way to the Genesis block. The Genesis block can be the first block ever created, or the main, or the mother block, or the father block, and any other sub blocks that comes, we call it a blockchain. So a chain, or a transactional chain of blocks actually gives birth to what we call a blockchain. So a blockchain is the database, that contains the blocks we are talking about. And then we have something over here that it says confirmations. And here Andreas defined confirmations as actually once a transaction is included in a block, it has one confirmation. And as soon as another block is mined or produced on the same blockchain, the transaction has two confirmations, etc. 6 or more confirmations is considered sufficient proof that a transaction cannot be reversed. So if somebody sends you a Bitcoin transaction, or not just a Bitcoin transaction, a crypto related transaction, the moment you receive that transaction, it is either on 0 or 1 confirmation. And it's very advisable you at least wait for 6 confirmations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 before you spend or you do whatever you want to do with that transaction, knowing that it is not possible for it to be reversed back to the sender. There are instances where somebody can send you a Bitcoin transaction, and that transaction can be pending for more than 72 hours, especially when there is no fee attached to that. Miners are incentivized before they actually confirm Bitcoin related transactions. So if you send and there is no incentive attached to your transaction, it will be pending. And there are instances whereby if those transactions penned for so long, they are automatically reversed back to sender. So whomever sends you a Bitcoin transaction or any other crypto, we use Bitcoin a lot because that is the real deal we are talking about. So any transaction you receive or you send somebody and you're expecting something in return, wait for at least 6 confirmations, or at least just wait for that time before your Bitcoins or your coins are really yours. And we have something we call difficulty. Difficulty is actually a network-wide setting that controls how much computation is required to find a proof of work. Now, in the cryptographical world, we have something we call the proof of work, and we also have the proof of stake. Now, proof of work requires some level of difficulty. You gotta do something for something to get to understand something, and when that something understands that something, it releases something. That is proof of work. So Bitcoin is mathematical and it is all computational. So now, a network-wide setting that controls how much computation is required to find a proof of work is what we call the difficulty. And that is how come you hear miners or constantly or all the time talking about mining difficulty, because that is where those real computations happens to actually work to prove out those Bitcoins we need. It's just so something like that. And we have difficulty target, and this is actually a difficulty at which all the computation in the network will find blocks approximately every 10 minutes. I don't know if I am permitted to stand up and show you something, and I think I will theoretically explain that because myself I'm so tired. And that is the way Bitcoin has been designed. So now, that is today's data actually, 7th September 2018. Right, now we have what we call difficulty, and that has to do with the difficulty target we are going to talk about. Now, Bitcoin production or mining got started in the year 2008, and we are saying this will continue till the year 2140. Now, with this, the blocks we are talking about is actually every 4 years per block. So now, block is how many transactions that is actually the list of transactions that has actually accumulated itself, and that per halving rule every 4 years it becomes much more difficult to produce Bitcoins, and the target is every 10 minutes. Now look at what happens. Now if the block that needs to be minimally reached is computationally agreed to be every 4 years, it means from 2008 we go to the year 2012, and from 2012 we go to the year 2016, 2018 over here, and then we have 2020. So let's say from 2020 we have 2024, and then 2024 over here, 2024, we have 2028, we have 2032. Now this will happen till the year 2140, and from this, every 10 minutes the difficulty target that needs to produce those Bitcoins, it says every 10 minutes whomever is actually enhancing the difficulty or working on the proof of work, you know, the POW word of Bitcoin, maybe investing some power, energy to try to confirm Bitcoin transaction that is roaming on top of the blockchain. We are all seeing every 10 minutes you should be rewarded 50 Bitcoins over here. That is how Satoshi Nakamoto actually designed the Bitcoin network, and that is the difficulty target. Now, every 10 minutes it releases rewards for those that are competing on the network to actually share. So now, every 4 years it becomes much more difficulty, and that is the difficulty target where we have here on my screen. It says difficulty rate targeting, and that is a network-wide recalculation of the difficulty which occurs once every 21 or 6 blocks and considers the hashing power of the previous 2106 blocks. Now, when that happens, whenever we reach this block, it becomes much more difficult for the difficulty target over here changes, and it becomes much more difficult for these to be releasing every 10 minutes over here, as you can see. And that within the first 4 years it was releasing 50 Bitcoins every 4 years, right? Now the second block that was actually achieved, the difficulty became much more, and here it was 25 Bitcoins. And this 2016 to 2020, here currently we are in 2018, and 2018 is between 2016 to 2020, and we are here currently. It is actually 12 point, let me use my calculator, 25 divided by 2, that is 12.5. We have 12.5 here, and from 2020 to 2024 divided by 2, we have 6.25 over here. like that divided by 2, the next 4 years we're going to be every 10 minutes it is maybe 3.125 BTC. This divided by 2, the next 4 years maybe 1.56 BTC. This divided by 2, the next 4 years it is actually maybe 0.78, and this by 2032 is actually divided by 2 and we have 0.39 BTC. Now 2032 to 2140, we have 2140 minus 2032. It's like more 108 years more to go, and that is divided by 4, 27 more 4 years. So it means it will get to a time the difficulty is actually releasing maybe 0.0001 worth of BTC every 10 minutes, and economically this is dangerous. Ask yourself, how many people are going to be investing millions of dollars into a technology that is basically releasing maybe 0.001 worth of 8 tokens every 10 minutes? It means the market value of those bitcoins as at that time is amazingly going to be crazier or bigger than what it is right now, and that is the more reason we are still here, God willing. Anyway, so we go to the next one, and that has something to do with the fees. And the fees is actually the sender of a transaction of it includes a fee to the network for processing their requested transaction. And to process that requested transaction, most transactions require a minimum fee of 0.005, or let's say 5 cents. Now ask yourself, you trying to do a transaction with your bank over here in Ghana, from one bank to another, how much are you going to be charged? Let's just not even use the bank a lot as an example, or in our examples, let's use mobile money in Ghana. You pay as much as 1 Ghana cedi for every 100 Ghana transaction you do, and this they are saying is still so cheap. Now 1 cedi is like let's say 1 cedi divided by 4.8, that is like 20 cents. Just for 100 Ghana cedi transaction you pay 20 cents or 21 cents. Okay, ask yourself, how much is it going to cost you a 100 Ghana cedi times to move, let's say 10,000 Ghana cedis or 100,000 Ghana cedis? So let's say $20,000. It's crazy, right? So if it is 20 times what you are going to do, it means you can pay as much as $40 or even more for transaction, and you can do Bitcoin transactions even $1 million paying as low as 5 cents, and that is crazy, unbreakable. And we have something we call hash. A hash is actually a digital fingerprint of some binary input. Now this is very technical, all right? It could not make sense to a whole lot of you, but let me just break it down to your level. This is like a signature. Whatever Bitcoin transactions you do, there is a signature attached to your transaction, and that is called a hash. That verifies, that validates, that signifies where that transaction is actually coming from. As simple as that. Just consider a hash a signature to your transaction. We have a Genesis block. That is the first block in the blockchain used to actually initialize the cryptocurrency. Let's say right now you are so whatever you are, to the extent that you want to even create your own cryptocurrency or your own coin. Now the first block in your blockchain or your coin's blockchain is a Genesis block, and every transaction that is going to occur aside or out of your block or out of your coin or your whatever industry or ecosystem you have would constantly be related to that first hash or first block in your blockchain. So it is the mother of all the blocks that is in the blockchain. Now we have a miner. A miner is actually a network node that finds valid proof of work for new blocks by repeating hashing. A miner is somebody who is busy trying to verify a Bitcoin transactions, verify all the transactions we are doing, because Bitcoin is actually a decentralized technology, unlike or maybe unlike our normal banking world where you have access to your central bank verifying every bit of transactions you do, over here we have to trust the system to, to run on its own, and that is backed by miners. Every transaction is provably distributed on lots and lots of nodes all over the world. These nodes can be computers, right? And that we have to have somebody who is interested in doing that. And if you are interested in doing that, we call you, or we consider you a miner. We also have a network that is a peer-to-peer network that propagates transactions and blocks to every Bitcoin node on the network. As you are trying to mine the Bitcoins, where are you going to do that? You have to do it on top of some network, and that is the peer-to-peer, whatever that propagates these transactions we see running on top of the blockchain. And we have proof of work is actually a piece of data that requires significant computation to find, or in Bitcoin, miners must find a numeric solution to the SHA-256 algorithm that meets a network-wide target, that the difficulty target. Now that is the proof of work. And we have something we call a reward. A reward is an amount included in each new block as a reward by the network to the miner who found the proof of work solution. And that is what I was just explaining, from the 50 to the 25 to the whatever. And I just made a reference that it will get to a time this reward might even be this low. And economically, the price of Bitcoin wouldn't be this low as you are seeing. And we have a secret key, and that secret key is actually your private key, and that is actually the secret number that unlocks Bitcoin sent to the corresponding address. A secret key looks like this, and this is your private key, whatever that unlocks access to the Bitcoins that is sent to any address also can be termed as a signature to that transaction. And we have a transaction, in simple terms, a transfer of Bitcoins from one address to another. More precisely, a transaction is a signed data structure expressing a transfer of value. Transactions are transmitted over the network, collected by miners, and included into blocks made permanent on top of the blockchain. Now, any transaction that hits the blockchain, remember we've always been saying that the blockchain is immutable. Any transaction that hits or enters on top of the blockchain, you can't edit it, you can't delete, you can't do anything about it. It's just there for good, and nobody can do anything about it. That is why some governments are scared, because of equality when it comes to data. This implementation is crazy. And we also have maybe the last, we have software. Wallet is actually a software that holds all your Bitcoin addresses and secret keys. You can use your wallet to send, receive, and store your Bitcoins. It only holds your Bitcoin addresses and secret keys, but it does not actually hold the Bitcoins itself. Bitcoin is virtual, right? So the keys, when you move from one wallet to another, the keys are going to be moved there as long as you have the ownership to those private keys and all that. And for you to actually get to understand the transaction that it is happening on top of the Bitcoin network or the blockchain itself, have a look at something I am going to share here with all of you for free, so that you get to know Bitcoin is just for everyone else. Now, unconfirmed transactions, blockchain. As you can see, I hope my internet never fails me, and this is it. Now, this is an example of what is happening on top of the blockchain. This transaction just came, it is coming down, it just came, it's coming down, it just came. New transactions all over the world. People are trying to, we have currently, as at the time of doing this video, making this video, we have 17,497 unconfirmed transactions. These are all live updates you can find. So I can't send you a Bitcoin right now, or any Bitcoin transaction. It must pass through here, be confirmed by miners. And the miners who are going to do this, or the process, whatever it is that's going to happen over here, the person should actually be rewarded for that. And it can, you see the dollar value, you see, $158,000, $2,000, $10, $100, 821. These are transactions people are actually, we have access to all of this, and the data that is entering this blockchain, there is nothing anybody can do about it. You can delete it, you can do anything about it, and it's just there for good. And nobody can have something like this and don't say this is not scary. This, we don't even know whom is anonymously anonymous, but not completely anonymous, because if somebody wants to trace with your transaction or your address, or you can get to know where you spent, what you spent on, stuff like that. But at least the user is actually, for the front view, the face, you are kind of safe, and everybody is there. You don't know where this transaction is coming from, who was the sender of this transaction. This is just $43,000, and people are transacting anytime, any day, anyhow. And these are examples of the things we want you to understand. Thank you so much for watching this. If you like it, just share this video to your friends, your colleagues, those of you who are into any blockchain business with, let them get to learn with us. You can follow us on Twitter at Ebitcoinics, and on Instagram at Ebitcoinics as well. Like our Facebook page at Ebitcoinics. And then next week, same time, God willing, 4 o'clock p.m. wherever you are, you can join us live. And you know, if you are not able to do that, you can just visit our channel, tv.ebitcoins.com, on YouTube, and you watch all of our videos. God willing, see you next week, same time. Enjoy your weekends.